So first of all, I would like to greet all of you once again by saying Tashi Delek. Whenever I give talk, I always play it with these words, these phrases that we exchange towards each other all the time, Tashi Delek. Then when we meet each other, everybody says good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Nobody says bad morning, bad afternoon, bad evening, right? Then similarly, we all try to get a good name, Tashi, Thundu, or Ram, or Mary, or whatever, all the good names. Nobody takes a name which is called ghost or evil force, or so the teaching starts from there. Because it's not enough just to get a good name, it's not enough just to say good morning. You need to try to live a life which is befitting the name. And also live the whole morning, having said good morning, make sure that the morning is really good. That's important. And that's why I especially very often choose these topics like this one, which is a little bit easy to understand, but which also makes people to think happiness in an uncertain world. Happiness in an uncertain world. So here the question is not so much about my talk, but the question is, I will ask these questions to all of you. Wherever I go, more or less, I say the same thing. I'm not an entertainer to say different things. So my question is, do you all want happiness? Right? Yes. So we need to sign a pact here, So you all said you want happiness, right? My next question is, if you want happiness, for how many days you want happiness? Huh? Exactly. Greedy as we are. I really think I can talk a little bit profound and deep, a little bit also. But I think we need to start from the basic reality that we want happiness. I'm not talking about religion right now. I'm not talking about Buddhism. I'm talking about the basic thing. We want happiness. And also we want happiness as long as possible. Now this wish to have happiness on the one hand, and also wish to have happiness as long as possible, is not necessarily something that you learned from your religion. It's also not necessarily something that your parents taught you, learned from your parents. I don't think so. You are born like that. You are born like that. The first thing that the child does after the birth is what? Laughing or crying? Huh? Crying. Have you seen anybody? First thing is laughing? No? See, there you are. So the first thing that the child, whether Tibetan or Chinese or American, the first thing that the child does after the birth is crying. Of course, apart from crying, what could the child do? Because he don't speak any language. Forget about second language. There's no language at all. The language is only crying. So by crying, what do you think the child is asking? Lengthy discourse on Buddhism? No. Attention? Huh? Attention? Yeah. So that I'm making a point here, you see. The first thing that the child, by crying the child is asking something, but it is, I think, 100% sure that the child is not asking for a long discourse on Buddhism or any religion. The child is asking for somebody's, you said attention. So the child is asking for somebody's attention in the sense that the child is asking for somebody's love. Are you with me? I think the child is asking for somebody's love. Mark each of my points. The child is asking for somebody's love, and that love also unconditional love. mark this point. The child is asking for not only love but unconditional love. I'm emphasizing on this point because later on we grow up, then we again share love with each other, but that kind of love is a little bit calculating and a little bit business love. I love you so long as you love me. That's called business love. But the child at that time has nothing to give back. No hair on the head, no teeth in the mouth, no clothes on the body, knows nobody, right? So at that time, the most important thing the child needed was not religion, unconditional love. So I'm emphasizing this point because we have this tendency, especially later on when we get some kind of knowledge, intellectual education, then we have this tendency to go for the second and third, not the most fundamental important thing, but we go for the second, which religion you belong to, which country you belong to. We go for the second, which is less important. What is most important is, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama calls, universal ethics. That is why secular ethics, universal ethics that His Holiness is working so hard these days is important. A way of life which doesn't make any distinction in terms of which country you belong to, which religion you profess, but as a human being, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. That is the basic, the most important thing. Now this point is so important because so long as you have this understanding in your relation with anybody, that this person, that woman, this man, exactly like me, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. If you look to other people with this kind of perception, with this view, that will be a very, very powerful uniting factor, a very, very important factor for harmony, love, and so forth. So that I think is extremely, extremely important. So we need to remember a few things. I already said a lot of things actually, if you remember and practice it. One, we want long-lasting happiness. That you need to remember. Not only happiness, long-lasting happiness. Second, universal ethics. Now when we say that I want long-lasting happiness, that is what we all want. So the important question here to ask is, if you want long-lasting happiness, from where do you think it will come? Especially the main source of long-lasting happiness. What do you think is the main source, the most important cause for long-lasting happiness? Is it outside or inside? So funny. I've asked this question in America, in Russia, in Singapore, in Israel, in Africa, so many countries. Everybody, when they're sitting and thinking, they say, it has to come from within. But that is not how we think in our daily life. That's the problem. That's not how we think. Normally we think happiness will come from outside. Now, especially if you go to the more developed countries, they have this tendency of thinking that your happiness will come from outside. For example, you get married to somebody, and that marriage, thinking that happiness will come from this marriage. And then this marriage doesn't work, then you start thinking, oh, this is the problem of this particular man or woman. So you get divorced, and then you think the next marriage will be a guarantee for long-lasting happiness. That also doesn't work. So in this way, people keep on changing their husband, changing their wife, changing their furniture, changing their vehicles, changing their houses, thinking that from these things, from these changes, I'll have happiness. But it is now not only taught in Buddhism, but it is not only proved in science, but it is based on our own experience, it is clearly proved that at the end of the day, as you already mentioned, that it has to come from within oneself. Now, what do you mean by that happiness, long-lasting happiness has to come from within oneself? What do you mean by that? So this is the important point. Happiness coming from within oneself means that how much or how durable your happiness is very much dependent upon your mental perspective, your mental outlook, how you see things. It is now found that, for example, if you are a person thinking that you are having 100% suffering, let us say, it is now found, it's taught in Buddhism and also according to some of the modern thinkers, it is now found out of that 100% so-called suffering which you thought you are afflicted with, 60-70% of that suffering is not even suffering. Look at this. 60-70% I'm saying is not even suffering. What is it? Just your mental projection. Even by the look, you start thinking, oh, this person don't like me, this woman don't like me, you know, this man is spying after me, this woman is spying after me, things like that. You doubt this, you develop this unnecessary doubt, suspicion, you know. So it's your mental projection. For example, weather, external weather. For example, if there are 3-4 days continuous rain, a person who doesn't have the right mental outlook, mental perspective will start cursing the weather. Damn this weather. It has been raining continuously for the last 3-4 days. You get angry. Just by getting angry, do you think the weather will say, I'm sorry, I'll stop? So that is called unnecessary suffering, unnecessary problem, you see. So what you need to say, whether it is in terms of your relation with the external environment, weather, rain, heat, and so forth. Similarly, in terms of your relationship with others, you need to think, you need to realize the fact that other person also want happiness, do not want suffering. That other person is not something that you should try to control. Just as if somebody tries to control you, you don't feel happy. Similarly, you should also realize that person also has his own aspirations, his own wishes, his own desires, right? So it is not at all, right to judge that other person, right? Just as you would maintain a harmonious relationship with others, generally speaking, without much criticizing. So similarly with other people also. Let me tell you this story, an encounter that happened with the Buddha. When Buddha was staying somewhere with his followers, then one morning suddenly somebody came rushing, a tall guy came rushing, very angry, went right to the Buddha and spat on his face. Buddha kept on smiling and remained patient. And then his retinues, the monks, followers, they pushed this man away. And then they said to the Buddha that your patience is a little bit too much. This man who we don't know suddenly came, spat on your face, you're still sitting there smiling. This is a little bit too much. Then the Buddha responded by saying, I'm not angry with that person. I'm angry with you all. Because you have been listening to my teaching and you are not able to practice when there is a problem. But this man, yes, you are right, you don't know, I don't know. Therefore, he must have a reason to get angry with me. Somebody must have said something negative about me, right? So therefore, I remain patient. I'm sorry for that person. And it is said that this man who spat on Buddha's face, the whole night he could not sleep. He was shocked or amazed with this reaction. He spat on somebody's face. Still that person is smiling and patient, not getting angry. So the first thing that he did next morning was came straight to the Buddha and asked for his forgiveness. So therefore in Buddhism we have this wonderful teaching, make a separation between the wrongdoing and the wrongdoer. Normally we don't make distinction. When somebody commits a little bit mistake, we say, this woman is horrible, this man is nasty. We don't make a distinction. But when you make the same mistake, you make the distinction. I'm sorry, I slipped. Meaning that basically I'm a gentleman, I'm a good person, but the mistake has happened. So you make a distinction. So just as you make a distinction between yourself and your wrongdoing, similarly make a distinction between the wrongdoer and wrongdoing of other person. With the wrongdoing, you can always challenge it, but always give opportunity for that wrongdoer to remain in the society, to become a good member of the society, to become a good person. And Buddha was able to do that. So to come towards this topic, happiness in an uncertain world. In Buddhism, I use the word uncertain, but in Buddhism we talk about impermanence. But if I use a word like uncertainty or uncertain, it is a little bit more agreeable with you. So whether you use the word uncertainty or impermanence, the fact is that we are all changing all the time. Not only the whole world is changing in general, and especially in today's world, everything is changing with the speed of science and technology. Everything is changing so fast. And there are many, many visible changes made by science and technology. But I'm not talking so much about that. That is there. But more important things, we ourselves are changing every split second, not halting even for a split second. Now scientifically it is said that after 7 years, your whole psychophysical makeup goes complete change. Especially science is talking about the physiology, the body. Everything, you're a completely different person, physically speaking, after 7 years. All the cells and everything, including the bone cells, everything undergo permanent kind of complete change in 7 years. So there is a story of a criminal who was caught and in prison for 7 years. So he had heard about this scientific finding. He said, now let me go. I'm a different person. So that is the scientific finding. And Buddha has explained this so many times long before. The first teaching that the Buddha gave us on impermanence. And you will all remember that the first teaching after enlightenment, when Buddha got enlightened, when he was requested to give the teaching, then he said, I found something that is profound, peaceful, free from fabrication, clear light, unconditioned. To whomever I teach it, nobody will understand it. Leave me alone in the forest to do my meditation. He did not teach right away. He's not like some of the teachers of the modern day who gives on advertising, I am the greatest teacher, I will teach you, and there's Buddhahood in 1 week, those kind of things were not there. So he did not teach. And after repeated request, when he accepted to give the teaching, and the first teaching that he gave us, as you will all know, the famous teaching on the Four Noble Truths, which is a very profound subject. But he was basically saying what he really found was everybody wanted happiness, nobody wanted suffering. Right? Whoever you are, whatever social status, name, fame, wealth, whatever you have, we are all same in this. Wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. And then he also saw that even though people don't want suffering, they have a lot of problems, a lot of difficulties, right? We still have that. Then he also found people wanted happiness, but happiness has become a rare commodity. Not easy. You get few pleasures here and there. Pleasures I'm talking about. That's not what Buddha was teaching. Buddha was talking about long-lasting happiness. So that people were not getting. Then he thought, if people wanted happiness, why don't they cultivate the causes and conditions for happiness? If they don't want suffering, why don't they recognize the causes and conditions for suffering and remove them? So, Four Noble Truth means happiness it is cause, suffering it is cause. Right? And we all agree that we want long-lasting happiness. And we also agree long-lasting happiness to come from within. So that means happiness and suffering is very much related to your mental outlook. Now, the very important technique that has been taught in Buddhism and which is now corroborated or supported by scientific findings is that the main cause that makes you unhappy is within yourself, it's not so much outside. The within yourself means all your negative emotions. Negative emotions. So whether you talk about Buddhism or even otherwise, having said that we all want long-lasting happiness, if that is your goal, that is our goal, then what we need to find out is to find out the obstructive factor which doesn't allow us to get the long-lasting happiness. And the obstructive factors are the negative emotions, not the enemy outside. They may be horrible, they may be nasty, they may be destructive, but their destruction at the most is one lifetime, not more than that. The negative emotions that is within us, they are entrenched deeply within us. We are habituated with these negative emotions. We are addicted with these negative emotions. So despite wanting not to collude with the negative emotions, despite wanting that I will do away with these negative emotions, somehow we fail, not only fail, but in many cases we fail miserably. So the most important thing that I would like you to remember, few things that you want to remember, is in my life, the most important thing is I will, even if I am unable to remove, but I will reduce the intensity of the negative emotions within oneself. If you do that, you're a good Buddhist practitioner. If you do that, you're a good human being. Right? You're doing something that will please your parents, please the Buddhas, enlightened beings, whoever you want to call it. That is the thing. Negative emotions. Now, when we talk about negative emotions, there are so many again, unfortunately. So let us at least catch hold of some of the big guys. Right? So some of the big guys in the negative emotions, let us talk about two things, two bosses of all the negative emotions. One is called ignorance. Right? Second is called self-cherishing attitude. Now these are a little bit heavy duty stuff. So when I use the word ignorance, it's not just lack of knowledge. Ignorance means seeing things as having independent existence. This is a big problem. How is it a big problem? It is a big problem because at a more kind of easier to understand level, two other negative emotions that has been harassing us all the time are attachment and hatred. Right? For example, if you watch a movie, watch an Indian movie or American movie or any movie, most of the movies that you watch, the main theme in those movies are either sex or violence. Right? These movies are more or less depiction of the way we live our life. So the main theme is sex or violence, attachment and violence. So ordinarily we think if these two are there, life is colorful. All the histories come from there. Violence, killing, history, big history, then sex, attachment. These two are horrible, these two are very negative, very bad. But their root is in ignorance. As I already said, I hope you will remember, ignorance means not just lack of knowledge, but misconception of reality. So misconception of reality means when you see things as having inherent existence, what is the problem? Independent problem. how does this misconception of reality brings attachment, hatred, and so on? For example, if you fancy something, you like something, say a person or a car or something, then when you have this tendency of seeing that car or person as having inherent independent existence, you not only see that car and person nice, but 100% nice. Wow, this is so good. This BMW car, I must have it. Wow, look at the color, look at the shape, look at the model. You exaggerate. You exaggerate. I'll tell you a story which is found in that little book by Robin Sharma, which is a very good story. There is a story of a father who managed to buy a brand new car, and he was so obsessed with it, as I was saying. I normally call it honeymoon period. You see, honeymoon period. Of course, we have all the attachment and go after something. Then finally we get it. Then for the first few days, I call it honeymoon period. Then you're obsessed with it. I made it. I own it. This is my car. This is my new house. As if it is like so beautiful, so perfect from its own side. So this person who bought this new car had the similar obsession. He was so obsessed with it that he used to cover the car and make sure that the car doesn't collect dust. And he had a little child, little girl. And the girl, out of her innocence, goes to the car and dribbles something, writes something, as little children do. They are very fond of playing, so dribbles something. This father, who was obsessed with the car, gets angry and goes to her, "What are you writing?" And he pushes the little girl, and the little girl dies. It's a very moving story. And after the little girl is dead, of course the father was very sad. And then he goes to the car just to see what this little girl has written. The little girl has written, "Papa, I love you." Look at this story. This is what we do when we are obsessed with something. Seeing things as having inherent independent existence, we become blind, we get obsessed with it. On the other hand, when we don't like something, say your so-called enemy, then not only you see your enemy as bad and horrible, but you will see your enemy as 100% negative. I can't talk to this person. He's outright devil. The only thing is I should shoot that person and kill that person. This is how killing starts. And Shantideva says, no. You don't have to kill people. They'll all die. I mean, look at the wisdom. When we don't have that wisdom, then we are stockpiling all these arsenals in the world today, including nuclear weapon, to destroy this very fragile human being. Throwing this sophisticated, powerful nuclear weapon. Imagine the stupidity. See. So you tend to see that enemy as 100% horrible, negative, no room for negotiation, no room for dialogue, impossible. It's only people like His Holiness Dalai Lama, even after he has been driven away from his country with all the Tibetans, he still says, no, let us have negotiation, let us have dialogue. Chinese also want happiness. They are also people, they also make mistakes. They will change. With that hope, he talks about loving kindness, compassion, non-enmity, and so forth. Only people with wisdom will be able to do that. But otherwise, we have this tendency to eliminate each other and then live in peace, which is impossible. Right? So therefore, out of all the negative emotions, the root cause of negative emotion is seeing things as having 100% inherent independent existence. So I am saying, no, everything is uncertain. They are all changing. Nothing has inherent, independent, permanent existence. They are all changing. Every second, every moment, everybody is changing. Why do you need to know this? If you know, for example, I'll tell you another story, why this understanding of impermanence or uncertainty helps you in your life. I'll give you another story. If there are 3 criminals caught and standing right in front of us today, and they will be executed and killed tonight, let us say at 10 p.m. Okay? So it is already like 4:40. So they have like 6 hours or so only. And after that they will be killed at 10. So how they should live together now in the next 6 hours? Exploit each other? Huh? What do you think? Is it a good idea to exploit each other in this remaining 6 hours, after which they will be killed? Is it good idea to try to bully each other? What do you think? Huh? No? Exploit each other? Engage in corruption? Things like that. So here we are able to clearly see the best thing that they should do is console each other. Say some prayers together. Right? That's the only sensible thing. Not harming each other, not trying to exploit each other, not trying to kill each other, right? That makes sense? Does it make sense? Huh? Exactly like that. These criminals have only 6 hours to live. And how many years we will live? For example, this particular gathering. How long are we going to live? I mean, there are a number of young people also, elderly people also, middle-aged people also. So if I give you a big discount in terms of your age, then even after having given big discount, the average life that we will live after big discount is maximum 80 years, let us say. That is huge discount that I give you. Right? After 80 years, none of us will be here. So during this remaining 80 years, how should we behave towards each other? I give you the examples, the 3 criminals. The 3 criminals, be nice to each other. That's why in Buddhism we talk about loving kindness, compassion, sense of responsibility. Make your place beautiful by working together, by living harmoniously. Don't talk about superficial dividing facts like which religion you belong to, which family, all this. I mean, you can ask in a conventional way, but not with the purposes of dividing, who is better, who is not better. Because at the time of the death is a big leveler. At the time of the death, there is no name, no post, nothing. You will experience in the future lives whatever you have done in this life or the lives before. It will not look at what kind of qualifications, whether you have finished your PhD or not, things like that. Right? So it's really, really important to understand the reality. The reality means the opposite to, when I spoke on the word ignorance, I said ignorance is a mind which sees things having which sees things as having inherent independent existence. I said that is wrong, right? So what is the right understanding of the reality? The reality is everything is interconnected. Such a beautiful teaching and profound teaching given by the Buddha. Everything is. Buddha gave this teaching 2,500 years back. Science is only recently talking about theory of relativity. But the good news is they are supporting. Through their finding, they are saying, yes, Buddha, what you taught is really right. But still they are talking only on the material level. Theory of relativity, they are primarily talking on the material level. Still they are unable to define the subtle functionings of the mind. So everything is interconnected. Now, for example, look at your own body. You are made of 4 or 5 elements: fire, water, earth, and so on. These 4 or 5 elements are actually antagonistic. So that long-lasting happiness that we all wanted, we agreed, will come from within oneself. Coming from within oneself means maintaining a right perspective. Right perspective means a mental attitude that sees reality as it is, without denigration or exaggeration. So the reality, see things as it is, means talking about the reality. Reality is everything is interconnected. So that's why I was saying, even in terms of your own psychophysical aggregate, it is made of 4 or 5 elements. And these 4 or 5 elements are antagonistic, they're enemy towards each other. For example, if the heat is a little bit stronger, then you will say, oh, I'm sick, I'm suffering from fever. You see. So even in terms of the food intake, the food you take, you need to be very careful. You just can't throw everything into your mouth. You need to know, unless I'm able to balance my elements, disease, illness means when the balance of the elements is a little bit disrupted, you are sick. Right? So whether it is in terms of your physical health or mental health, balance and proper understanding of the reality, interdependence of many things is extremely, extremely crucial. Interdependent origination, your relation with other people, your relation with environment. For example, when we get sick, we need to take medicine. From where does the medicine come from? From the environment. Now, if the environment is polluted, which is true these days, how can you hope to get pure medicine which will heal your disease, illness? So we need to have a very clear understanding of this interdependent origination, even in its very grosser level, and then gradually, of course, subtle level. Okay, so what I'm saying is, some of the main enemies that are responsible for your not being able to get long-lasting happiness is what we call as the 3 poisons: attachment, hatred, ignorance, out of which ignorance is the worst thing. So what we need to do is not so much about talking, it's really doing. It's really doing. Much of the suffering that we are having, in our world, in our family and so forth is not just ignorance, but lack of action, inaction, and ignorance are the source of problem. So therefore, my wish is that we should try to reduce the intensity of our negative emotions a little bit, with full understanding that we live in uncertain world, meaning that I'm here breathing and healthy right now, tomorrow I may be gone, I may be dead. Right? So what is important is that one day you are going to die. That's not the problem. That's not the problem. Even if you live, I'll tell you one story more. I'm tempted to tell you one story. It is not so much that you live long, by which you get something, but it's really how you live each and every day, each and every hour, which makes the difference. In ancient India, there's a story of somebody who lived 1,000 years. And because he lived long, 1,000 years, he had married 100 wives. And he has 100 children. And one day when the father was 1,000 years old, then the Lord of Death came, messenger of death came. And he said, you lived very long, 1,000 years, now your time to go. He said, yeah, I know I lived 1,000 years, but still I don't want to die just like us. I don't want to die, I want to live a little bit longer. But I have so many sons, you take one of them. Right? And then the Lord of Death goes to the eldest son, who was quite high in age. And he said, I don't want to go. He goes to the next, goes to the next, goes to the next, asks the same question. Everybody says, I don't want to die. Then he goes to the youngest one, who was only 15 years old. He said, do you want to go? The young boy said, yes, I want to go. Then the Lord of Messenger took some pity on him, saying that, how come you're ready to go when all your, your father and all your brothers, elder brothers, don't want to go? You're so young. You're still to live your life. Then he said, yeah, I know that, but since my father lived 1,000 years, my elder brothers lived so many years, and they didn't get anything, I'm sure I'm not going to get anything, so I don't want to. So this is an interesting story, you see. It's really, this tells, it's not so much about how long you live. The important thing is live every day happily. Live every day happily means not just enjoying pleasures, also not talking about. Live every day happily by doing the right thing, not doing the wrong thing, not creating problem, suffering upon others, being compassionate, being loving, but not in a stupid way. Loving kindness, compassion, also with wisdom. Otherwise people will bully you, take advantage of you. With intelligence, wherever possible, develop love, patience, compassion. Even in the case of wrongdoing by some people, you try to challenge that person, not with negative emotion, but with clear conscience, with wisdom, with integrity, with strength. So from that perspective, practices like non-violence and compassion are sign of strength, not sign of weakness. If you resort to gun and nuclear arms, you don't need any strength. And in fact, these days you sit in an air-conditioned room and press the button and you can kill many people. That is not bravery. Real brave people are who have this internal integrity and strength. Right? So, we live in an uncertain world. Things change. That's my point. Things change. So if you think your long-lasting happiness and peace will come from outside, no. Why? Because what is outside you, they keep on changing all the time. Weather will change, whether you like it or not. Friends will change, not necessarily for worse, but they may die, they may go to different places. It happens all the time, you see. So things change. So the question is, when everything is in a flux, when everything is changing, how can you maintain your sanity? अपने आप को पागल बनने से कैसे रोकें? That is the question, you see. How you maintain your sanity? You will be able to maintain your sanity if you have right from the beginning this understanding. Yes, things will change. Yes, things will change. I lose one friend, I get many friends more. You're not completely dependent on just few external things. But the real source of protection, refuge and security is within yourself. You strengthen yourself with knowledge, with integrity, with love, with compassion, with patience, with understanding. And these inner qualities will be there not only when you are alive, but even when you go to next life, these qualities will be there. Just like a song recorded on a tape ribbon or cassette. When a beautiful song is recorded on the cassette, after having recorded, if you try to see the song, you don't see. That doesn't mean it is not there. You put it in the tape recorder, push the right buttons, it will sing. Or it will cry also, depending upon what you have recorded. So therefore, this internal qualities are really the most important thing. Okay? So, remember this, not during this talk, but rest of your life. I want long-lasting happiness. That long-lasting happiness has to come from within myself. Because others, even your family members, they may be very nice, not necessarily bad, they may be very loving, very nice, but there is a limit that they can do. So at the end of the day, you need to take care of yourself. Right? When we meet friends and when we separate, then what do we say? Bye, take care, right? Nobody says, bye, I'll take care of you. The teaching is there. And Buddha said this a long time before, self is the protector of the self, no one else can be the protector. Likewise, self is the enemy of the self, no one else can be the enemy. We have this tendency, enemies, he is the problem, she is the problem. Always pointing finger towards someone else, not to oneself. So the Buddha said, self is the protector of the self, no one else can be the protector. Likewise, self is the enemy of the self, no one else is the enemy. Another Tibetan teacher, he said, there is nobody, however good to you, there is nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven. Similarly, there is nobody, however bad they are, there is nobody who will catch hold of your leg and drag you into hell. Your happiness and your suffering is in your hand. Do not cheat yourself. Remember this, do not cheat yourself. So if I keep on talking, I can bore you, So I'll stop here before you get bored, okay? So remember few things that you want long-lasting happiness, probably write on a piece of paper, hang there in your room. That long-lasting happiness is to come from within oneself by reducing the negative emotions. So with these negative emotions, how destructive they are, you need to ask questions. For example, I'll ask you a few questions. For example, anger, let us say. Is there anybody who right in the morning makes a motivation thinking that today I will get angry? Here you are. So we have some idea that anger is not good. But in the course of the day, we do get angry with people, you know. Then in the evening, when you reach home and reflect back that you got angry and fought with somebody, is there anybody who will say that today I was angry, fought with somebody, so I really enjoyed the day? So like that. So similarly, anger, jealousy, hatred, you should do the experiment, how destructive they are. The more you're able to see their destructiveness, the more you'll be able to distance yourself from the influence of these negative emotions, and that will lead you to better peace, long-lasting happiness. Thank you very much. So now we have another 20-30 minutes, depending upon how it goes, question answer sessions.
So first of all, good evening and thank you very much. To make a question very shorter, so my question is how to stay motivated in this uncertain world where people are running like a race and also push others to achieve a materialistic need which they give a very beautiful term called success. Thank you, sir.
That is why I was talking about the importance of developing compassion and also wisdom. Wisdom primarily means discernment. Discernment. You should be able to judge what is right, what is wrong, what is good for you, what is not good for you, what is good for you in the long run, you know, or immediately, things like that. You should always try to use your discernment and do not run because everybody is running. That's the challenge. That's the challenge. You're right. These days, almost everybody says, I'm busy. To meet anybody, you need to seek an appointment, you know. It was not like this before. But today, for good or for worse, I don't know. But everybody is running. But I'm telling you, it is not important to be busy. What is important is, what are you busy about? Similarly, it is not important to run, but what are you running for? Angulimala, you know the story Angulimala? A very notorious person who met a wrong teacher, and advice of this wrong teacher, he started practicing human sacrifice and killed like 999. He killed 999. He was asked to kill 1000. So every time he kills one person, he chops the finger, made it a rosary, hangs it around his neck. On the last day, when he was looking for the last person, the 1000, the last one, Buddha realized that this is the time to tame him, and Buddha intentionally appeared before him. And Angulimala chased him, started chasing him. Buddha was walking slowly. Somehow he was not able to catch up with the Buddha. So look at this. Buddha was walking slowly. Angulimala was running. He could not catch him. Now don't say, this is Buddha, he did some miracle, things like that. Don't say this. What I'm saying, in our practical life also, certain things you can do with concentration, no running. No running. With concentration, you can do many things in a short time, not just running. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, so the story says, then finally, out of desperation, Angulimala shouted, "Don't you realize who is chasing you? This is the dreadful murderer Angulimala." And the Buddha stopped, looked back, and smiled. And he said, "It's not me who is not stopping, it's you who is not stopping." See? So I see little bit similarity with modern men, little bit of Angulimala, running and running and running. What they are going to catch, I really don't know. They'll get all this plastic bottles, all this 100,000 things that is flooding in the market, they'll get it. But with that, what they are going to get, I don't know. They lose their sleep, they get hepatitis, they get diabetes, all these diseases, don't do exercise. So if they don't do exercise, then where are they running? Their running should be a little bit of exercise also. Nothing is there, really. So it's not by running. So therefore, you will be motivated. That's your question, If you are able to see what is the right thing to do, naturally the motivation will come. You don't need a special person. Some important people, great teachers, they may also motivate you. But the most important thing is if you see the purpose of your life. And the purpose of your life is not just eating, sleeping, and going to the toilet. No, we all know that. That animals also do. So the purpose of life is if you are able to bring smile on the faces of your people. Right? If you're able to share a little bit of your expertise and your knowledge to the younger generation who don't have life's experience, who may face a lot of difficulties in this so-called modern world. So have love, have compassion to them, teach your skills, give your education. As somebody who is growing old, I have started seriously thinking about that. What is it that I'm going to live in this world? So if you're able to nurture few young people and give the lessons that you learned based on your experience, share them. And if you're able to do that, even when you die, it's really like you're not dead, you're living, because you're living for the principles. So with that kind of understanding, every day, and I'm not somebody who is like highly motivated or a great Dharma practitioner or great teacher, anything like that, but the little service that I do for people, and that also according to repeated suggestion and guidance of His Holiness Dalai Lama, I feel happy, Not because I had made a lot of money or a lot of name, things like that, but because, you're able to make some people happy and smile. That's it. That's it. So that will keep you motivated all the time. Okay? Thank you. Thank you.